Hello, everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and today we're going to look at the Netflix documentary Con Mom. I can't speak. Con Mom. Oh, by the way, there is if you go to Netflix and you're looking for Con Mom, you'll come up with Con Mom, and Con Mom is a movie out of the Philippines, which I'm pretty sure they made it Con Mom in order to play off of Con Mom and make money. So I just screwed it up. So it worked. Con Mom. And this is the story of how this guy, who was a well-known British chef, and he was a wonderful pastry chef. His name is Graham Hornigold, and he got conned by this woman who came to him and said, "I'm your mother. Yes, I've been away for 45 years, and you don't know who I was and what happened to me, but here I am." And he was so thrilled that he finally had a mom. And so, but she was a con mom. So you pretty much know from the beginning that she's a crook and a con artist, which she absolutely was. Somebody just mentioned Anna Delvey. Yeah, Anna Delvey was pretty good at what she did. She was way better. I mean, she had been doing what she'd been doing for at least 40, 50 years and doing it very, very well. So I will have to say, I can appreciate her skills, although she's a total psychopath. And I'll start right up front with that. Psychopath. And unfortunately, he didn't get the picture early enough. So anyway, I want to welcome everybody who is here in the chat room. Oh, he came across as sweet in the documentary. He does, but I do have some concerns about his own motives, and I'll get into that. Yeah. So welcome everybody who's in the chat room, and if you'd like to be in the chat room, please do check this out when I can find it. Yeah, please do check out Patreon, the link below. That is one wonderful way that everybody supports the channel. It's only $5 a month, but it does get you to 8 lives, 2 every week. There's this case show on the weekend and a hangout during the week, and it's for patrons only. And so we develop a wonderful community. We actually know each other, and it's really nice. And for $5 a month, it really does help this channel survive, believe it or not. And but if you don't want to do that, do not worry. All of my videos, once the live is over, a week later, they go public. So if you subscribe to the channel and hit the bell, you will always get what the new stuff is. And you can always go to the playlist and you'll find every video I've ever done, because I want people to learn. I don't want to hide things. So everything is available. All right. Now to this fascinating case. Absolutely fascinating. And I want to, oh, aren't you nice, Clarissa? Worth every penny, those 500 cents. No, I really do appreciate it. You'll be surprised how that does help support the channel. Oh, I want to go to Lisa S's comment here. I now that I think about it, he was so ready to believe her for 2 reasons. He desperately wanted a mom, and he also wanted all those millions. Yeah, and these we're going to look at. I want to look at in this show a whole bunch of stuff, because everybody has motives, and that includes the person who's conning as a motive, but the person who's being conned has a motive as well. And I want to help people, because my title here is "Will You Be Next?" Because the more you have certain issues and want certain things, you're needy in some way. You want somebody to come along and change your life. Rather than changing it yourself or being happy with what you have this idea that if somebody came along like this, everything would be different. Now, can that happen? Well, sure it can. I mean, there are those freaky things that do occur in life, where you end up accidentally marrying, like a Princess Diary. You suddenly have a relative who actually makes you a princess. There's a lot of stories like, remember The Prince and the Pauper? You're a pauper, but you're really a prince. That kind of stuff. Or you just whatever it is, you meet somebody who's really amazing and they turn out to be rich as crap, and you marry them and suddenly your life changes. Anything can happen. I mean, life has those oddities. But There's a difference between just having some luck that works out in your favor and not being happy with where you are. And so you always have this radar out looking for somebody to save you. And a lot of people get conned because of that. And so I'm going to get into that whole issue. This is, well, interesting you say this. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, Martina. He probably would have been happy just to find his mom without money. Maybe. And I'm going to get into that. But it seemed like a fairy tale can come true, which absolutely did. Because a lot of people find their moms and it doesn't turn out to be what they thought. And I have very strong opinions on adoption. He was not adopted, by the way. Just his bio mom just vanished into the woodwork. But there are a lot of people who go through adoption who go searching for their bio moms. And being an adoptive parent myself, I'll get into that in a minute. I have a lot of strong feelings on the issues of people trying to go back and find their roots and how it's going to make them a different person. And I'll get into that. I'm going to go through a whole bunch of stuff here. But I just want to bring that up. I'm going to bring up that kind of issue up, who you are and what's your biological is your biology destiny, or is your culture destiny, or is your upbringing destiny? All those kind of things. And also, another thing I'm going to bring up is during this is I had an experience in my life when I was a very early profiler, just starting my business, where I came in contact with a person who was not a con mom, but she was a con artist, and she joined my organization. And I'll explain all that to you. And the reason I want to go through what she did to me, although I didn't suffer anything like him, and it wasn't, she never took money from me, but I'm going to explain how she did it. And I want to show you how she did it by helping you understand another situation, how con artists work. And it's sometimes you got to admit, that's pretty darn brilliant. and it's one of the things that is amazing to me is the person who tried to con me for a while, but tried to con me, was a brilliant woman. IQ off the charts. She could have been anything in life, but she preferred conning people. I think she was probably a pretty smart lady, but she took her smarts to a different kind of lifestyle than she could have put them to, good instead of evil, as they say on a certain Get Smart show. She could have probably made a lot of herself, but the fun of it, which you're going to have to try to understand, the fun of life for these people who are con artists and psychopaths, doing it the right way is dull, but getting over on people, that's the fun. So keep that in mind as we go through a lot of this whole situation. All right, so some of you, interesting, Clarissa is saying, even though my sis and I were in the system and adopted, we always knew our real, but my sis found our mom. Okay, I just want to say, your real mom is the one who raised you. Your biological mom is the one who bore you. We found our biological mom, and I visited her a couple of times, and there was no way I was not after she had abandoned us. Well, I want to say this up front. There's a lot of reasons why biological mothers may not be in the picture. Some because they died. Some because they had their children ripped away from them in a horrific circumstance. Sometimes this happens in certain countries where, say, a pregnant teenager just has, and even in the U.S. it's happened, where it's basically a child's just removed. And that wasn't their fault. And then there's bio moms who gave up their child because they I'm in no position to give this child any kind of a decent life. And I want the best for this baby that I'm never going to see again. And I have all the heart for those people. And then there's those who simply abandon their kids because they didn't give a frick in the first place. And the problem is we have this illusion that because a person pushes a baby out, that somehow that makes them a mother. It does not. It makes them a person who had a baby. To become a mother is a person who takes care of the child, who raises a child, loves a child, will give anything for the child. That's a mother. Now, mind you, again, if you gave that child away because you wanted the best for that child and it broke your heart, I'm going to give you credit on that. I'm going to say you were a mother. That, and maybe if you found that bio mom again, there might be something good there. I'm not saying there never is something good there. But a lot of times there's a lot of disappointment because the circumstances are not what people wish they were. It's not always the happy ending. And so I have issues with that. So personally, I've got my own thing on that, which I will get into. So anyway, I'll get into it right now. Okay, just in case you don't know me, because I'm going to talk about this another way. But anyway, this is a acrylic painting I did of my daughter. She's now in her 40s, but I think she looks a little younger here. But anyway, she still looks really good. She's hot looking. Anyway, this is my daughter, and she is biracial. Her father is from Jamaica, and this is my second child. This is David. His father is also biracial, and his father from Jamaica. And this is my son Jeremy. And Jeremy, we adopted at age 5. And so I have a lot of strong feelings about adoption because of this young man who I adore. Okay, so just saying. All right. Now let's get to the story before I confuse the living hell out of all of you. All right. Now, I want to read you. I'm going to start this story. The best version I found was on Daily Mail, and people they call it the Daily Fail. But I like the Daily Mail only because they do really good crime news in spite of themselves. The best crime news outlet that there is. They get more details than anybody else. Go figure. Oh, I do want to mention Con Mom. It's an enjoyable documentary to watch. A lot of people say, "Oh, it really was fascinating." I was pissed at it, not because it wasn't enjoyable to watch, but that they never asked any important questions. None of the important questions. And it drove me nuts. Because I'm like, why aren't you asking that question? It's mostly of him. Because, they weren't having conversations with her. But they weren't asking it of him. And he's the star of this whole thing, and this is what happened to me, I would want to ask certain questions and know the answers to them. Now, they may have asked those questions. He may have answered them, and they may have edited them out. Or they never asked them. Either way, I have a problem with that because there's a part of this story that's missing and drives me nuts, and I'm going to get into that. So, all right. So, let's see. All right. So this is from Daily Mail, and the title I think kind of good in case you've never seen this. Con Mom. I keep saying Con Mom because of the other show. Con Mom. Master Chef Judge. He was a Master Chef Judge. I think somebody said only one show, but anyway, his food looks great. Reveals how reuniting with his mom 45 years after being abandoned turned into a horrible nightmare. Quote, I was alone, in debt, and suicidal. Now, in the show, we hear that he went into debt because he gave so much freaking money to her, which I'm going to get into. What an idiot. And then I am alone. Also, what an idiot, because he had, let me show you here. He had, when this all went down, he had this lovely woman who was also in the documentary. And she had a baby with him. And then she got fed up with him, and because he basically abandoned her and his child to pursue this fantasy of the new mom who's going to make him somebody that he, for whatever reason, thinks he wasn't. But this is him as a child, a little boy, and this is him. I'm going to get back to this picture at some point. This is him. He's a very successful British chef, not necessarily incredibly, didn't make a lot of money, but he was a British chef and apparently a really good one. He ran this company, I forgot what it's called, something about long dogs or something like that. I forgot the name of the company, but they were like pastries in the shape of a hot dog, and everybody says they were delicious, and that company just went under. But sorry, if I cough during the show, I have been sick this week. I don't have a COVID thing to hold up in the air like I did many years ago. And I don't know what this is. I personally would say it's a cold. A lot of people say, go get a COVID test. I'm like, don't really feel the necessity. I'm not horribly sick. I'm just had a cold and coughing. But I will cough during the show. So anyway, let's read this. So anyway, suicidal was never mentioned here. So I don't know where that came from. All right. But he supposedly a quote, not saying that the Daily Mail can't fail. That's why they call it the Daily Fail. But still. All right. Now, I love the opening here, and I'm pretty sure this is just written by the person. This is Jenny Johnston, who's the journalist, shall we call her, was writing this. I did find it funny, so I wanted to read it. Frankly, it's the kind of thing an unhappy little boy who never knew his mother might lie awake fantasizing about. One day, Mummy will turn up and want to make amends for all the years of hurt. Mummy will look just like me and give the best hugs. Oh, and Mummy will turn out to be a royal princess, one of the richest women in the world. And she will say, let's go buy you a car, son. What about a Rolls Royce? It sounds insane, but it happened, sort of. I think that's a great opening, absolutely a great opening, because that is pretty much what happened. He didn't know for how many years? 45 years, who his mother was. Well, he had her name. They didn't know who she was, and they never could find her. And he didn't have a good upbringing. His father, he said, was an alcoholic and abusive. He ended up in foster care for 2 years, and that's very confusing. They said he was adopted, but he wasn't adopted. He was in foster care, possibly because there was nobody to care for him. The bio mom had disappeared, and the dad was not very useful. So he ended up in foster care somewhere along the way for 2 years. Again, I would like the people who ran this documentary to say, explain exactly what happened to you in your childhood. When did you end up in foster care? What about that stepmother? Because he does nothing about the stepmother. Was she a horrible human being? You already say your father's a horrible human being. What about your stepmother? Where did you go to school? Did you have any brothers and sisters? Supposedly, I've never heard of any siblings. So was he an only child? I don't know. None of that was asked, or it was asked and it was edited. So anyway, he was in foster care for a couple of years, which to me, the mother disappears, or she claims later that she was the father basically jettisoned her and stole the child. But since she's a pathological liar, I'm not sure that that's true. So anyway, he ends up without his mother, his biological mother. His biological father is there, but he ends up in foster care for 2 years. So in those early years, there's a thing called attachment disorder, which happens to a lot of kids who are adopted or who end up in foster care, which is they lose faith that the adults around them, when they're babies and toddlers, give a damn about them. And in that, they get what's called attachment disorder. In other words, they get disconnected from human beings. They don't trust them for good reason. And after some of them end up with personality disorders, and some of them end up being psychopathic because they're like, what you did to me was just wrong, and I don't trust any of you. So therefore, you had this game you played, and I failed every time I rolled the dice. I failed, so I'm going to change up the game on you. I'm going to get over on you. So I don't know much about truly what happened, but eventually he left at a pretty early age and started working as in kitchens. And I've heard a lot about how kitchens have saved many lives. People who have been had drug issues, people who've been in prison, they've been saved by the kitchen. And I think that's kind of cool, because I think what's happened is when they started cooking, they had something to become good at. And they worked within a family of the restaurant. And so a lot of people become great chefs who have come from kind of questionable backgrounds, which you're like, wow, that's really, really cool that you end up in the restaurant industry. It's a tough industry too, because it doesn't pay that well as people think. Cocaine is rampant. And a lot of people are speeding because the pressure is so high. And there's a lot of issues with the restaurant industry, but a lot of people have been saved by the restaurant industry. So I will simply say that. Okay, so he becomes Graham Hornigold. I want to stop here just to say Graham Graham Hornigold. I don't know. Is anybody here from the UK? I want to check this out because I'm doing a 3 o'clock show, so some people from the UK could actually be awake. That is true. Kitchens are incredibly busy and keep you occupied. Absolutely true. You are okay. A farm? Oh, you're from the UK. Okay. Hornigold. Is that a well-known name in the UK? Just asking. Curious. I didn't have time to go check it out. Antonio. Okay. And another person. Oh, I've never heard of it. Nope. Okay. Never heard of that name before. Oh, excellent. Okay. So the reason I want to point this out is there's 2 sides to your name. If you have a name like Graham, what does it? I gotta go look it up again. Hornigold. I just want to make sure I'm pronouncing that. Hornigold. Okay, Hornigold. If you have a name that's freaking weird, do not become a criminal because you are really easy to find. I've done some searches for criminals, on Google, and I'm like, my name is Pat Brown. Good luck, all of you. Patricia Brown. You can't find me anywhere because there's massive amounts of Patricia Browns running around. But some of my people I've been investigating have weird names, and they're like the only ones in the country. My ex-husband is the only one in the United States. Swear to God, I'm not going to give his name, but he's the only one in the United States. I'm not sure he's not even the only one in Jamaica to go along with that. If he commits a crime, he is so screwed because he's the only one. By name, I vanish. So if you're going to be a criminal, you don't want to have a name that's so obvious that you can be easily tracked, especially these days. But on the other hand, if you're going to be victimized, you have a mummy who ran off 45 years ago, and she wants to find you. If your name is Hornigold, Graham Hornigold, it's not exactly the toughest thing to do. So she had an advantage when she decided to con him that she could find him just like that. And of course, he also became a well-known chef. So his face appeared. I think I have a picture of that. His face appeared, and this is one of the reasons she was able to catch up with him. Right, here we go. Okay, so here we go. Remember, that's when he's little. By the way, I'll get to that in a minute. Here he is. Oh, look, he's in the media. Hornigold. As she's looking for him, and she finds him, she's like, he's become a well-known chef. Good target. So you gotta be so names are kind of interesting in that sense. Taylor says, Pat is suggesting if we want to commit crimes, we should legally change our name to something generic. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, yeah. But it's funny you say this. I also have a very unusual last name. I changed it back a while back to my maternal maiden name. Now, interesting enough, after I got divorced, I did have an unusual maiden name, but I was known professionally as Pat Brown, and the maiden name was so hard to pronounce that when I was younger, they always left the ends. I was a German name, so I always left one of the ends off the end of my name and gave me a trophy with missing letters, and I could never order pizza. So, I mean, when I got Pat Brown, I said to my ex, I'm like, yeah, I'm keeping that one. I'm keeping that one. So this guy, yeah. All right. So Graham Hornigold, a renowned pastry chef, ex-Michelin star holder. I don't know why you would call him an ex-Michelin star holder. Don't you keep your star forever? That's kind of weird. And a former judge on MasterChef, seemed a very grounded man. Not one prone to lavish leaps in life. Well, perhaps because he didn't have the opportunity to have lavish leaps. One of the things that's very true, which we don't understand about people, is that when they don't have opportunities, they don't have opportunities. I say right now, I'm a pretty, I don't spend a lot of money outrageously because I've done so much pro bono work, and I'm kind of a simple person in many ways. But you know, no, the other day I did get a more expensive art course because I want to learn more art. And so I told my sister, she said, well, that's good. She's, I'm glad you did that. It's a little expensive, but I'm glad you did that. And I'm like, yeah. And I got myself a Jaguar and and a nice speedboat and a small Cessna plane too, which I did not. But of course I can't afford those things anyway. Well, maybe I could, it's like, but if somebody just gave me $1 million, those shoes you have never been in. I mean, I've never been into 5-star hotels so much because I'm not going to pay $2,000 a night, But if I could go to Bali because I had excess amount of money and sleep, one of those places where you look down, you're sleeping, you look down, the fish underneath your bed, and I had so much money I didn't know what to do with it. I might kind of do that. Oh, is that true? Michelin stars are not permanent. They are awarded annually. And a rigorous, secretive inspections and restaurants must consistently maintain their high standards each year to keep them. You have to keep them. Interesting. Well, thank you for that. I mean, that's very interesting. That's kind of sucks. I mean, it's like, here, no, taking it back. All right. I understand you can win it for the year and not continue to be a Michelin star restaurant, but I still think you get the honor of having had that. But anyway, ex-Michelin star holder and a former judge on MasterChef seemed a very grounded man. He says he never had a decent car, probably because they supposedly, according to Grok, because I looked it up, he made about $60,000 to $70,000 a year as a regular payment. But he did start a company with his partner, and then I don't know that he made so little because he was able to get really high credit card limits, and I'm like, is that all I get? I mean, I don't use it much. I pay it off like every week, but I'm still like, I've had this for like 10 years now. I pay it off every week, and I'm still at what? I think I'm at 6,000 or 7,000. I'm like, and he's like able to give his mummy, as you're going to find out, a shitload of money, paid for stuff like in the tens of thousands. I'm like, how did he get that high credit rating? So he got these credit cards, only making $60,000, $70,000 a year. Anyway. Oh, so he was making that, but I think he was doing some. You don't necessarily, if you go on shows and stuff, you don't necessarily make money because people think when you appear on a television show, you get a lot of money. That's not true. Most of the time you get zero. You get the credit. No, oh, you're going to be on the show, you get publicity. For this show, did he get paid? This I would not be surprised. He managed to get paid for because he's the focus of the show. He might have found this is a good way to get some money back. I don't know what they paid him. All right. It could have been a big deal. All right. So he never had a decent car before. So he nearly fainted when the biological mother, and by the way, she was. So the big twist supposedly at the end of the show is she actually is his biological mother. So a lot of times through the show, you think, oh my God, maybe she's not his biological mother. Well, how did she find him? How did she find him and how did she know things about him? Well, she found him through, as I pointed out, it was COVID. She was in London. No, she wasn't in London. She was in England. And his pictures were in the media. And Hornigold, must be my son. Anyway, sorry. She was probably trapped and looking for a new mark. And then they thought, oh, what about that son I have? So she found him through the media, and but so I just want to go back to so she finds him through the media, and she can contact him because it's very easy to do. And then he asked her specific questions like, "What was my name? What was my middle name?" And she said, "Sorry." It's only because I'm talking. I've been fine all day. She said, "What's his middle name?" And he said, "What's my middle name?" And she said, I didn't give you a middle name. And that was something unknown to anybody but him. And he asked a bunch of questions that she answered, which did indeed, in my opinion, I believed she was his bio mom from the very beginning. I didn't have a problem with that. He didn't get the DNA test. He probably should have. He should have said, hey, at least Ma, we should get the DNA test just to be sure. But he didn't, because I think she convinced him with that. And I again, there were some questions there I can't believe anybody else could answer because I wouldn't know. So I personally, from the beginning, believed this was his mother, biological mother. And then later on, way late in the show, he was getting suspicious of her, like way after he should have gotten suspicious of her, like 2 years prior. He finally says, "Hey, I want the DNA test," and the DNA test came back that she was his mother, biologically. And everybody's like, I'm like, it's kind of obvious, you know what I mean? But yes, sometimes a con artist will pretend they're your parent, your bio parent, or your bio child. There have been sad situations where people have lost their children. The child has gone missing, probably killed by a serial killer, child predator, probably dead within 3 hours. But 20 years later, some guy pops up and says, "I'm your son," and they fall for it because, I mean, if he looks close enough to what he might have looked like when he was a child, and he says, "I'm your son," that is one of the saddest cons ever. And it's sickening because to believe your child never died, to believe your child is still alive and he can come home. And there's some really horrifying cases where they actually even brought the child home, adult, and thought it was their child until they realized it wasn't. It's just sickening. But in this case, I really believe she was a mom. They have that similarity. Well, I'm going to get into some of the issues about similar behaviors in just a second. So anyway, all right. So let me go through some other things I want to talk about. So one of the things I want to talk about is, hold on a second, I gotta find it. All right. Yeah, here they are. I mean, they've met now. Now, interesting enough, this starts to be interesting right from the beginning. I don't know if I put this picture up here. I didn't. When she first came there, what did I do in my picture? Okay, it's not going to show up here, but I'm going to look it up because I took a picture of it. When she was in London, she contacts him, and she says, "Oh, I'm your mother." They do the questions and all that kind of thing, right? And then she says, "I'm in Liverpool. Come and see me in Liverpool." Now, mind you, she's in her 80s, so I mean, she's an elderly woman. And now, so they drive. It's 4 hours and 23 minutes from London. He and his what he calls his partner, because he never married her, but anyway, his partner, to Liverpool to meet her, and she gets a room for them, because she's a millionaire, a multi-millionaire. And right away, I'm like, what's your thought right away on that whole issue? That is true. A fool and their money are soon easily parted. What do you think about her being in Liverpool and them in London? And she says, "Come to Liverpool," and then she gets, she welcomes them. She gets them a hotel room. What strikes you right there? Because this was the first thing that got me. No, she's spending a crap load of money. I don't think. Well, wait a minute. I'm going to say maybe she was staying in a hotel. Maybe it was cheaper than London. That is true. But what's the other? That's a good point. It is cheaper than London. Very true. And that comes up later. That comes later when she turns on him. Yeah. Thank you. She made them come to her. Now, mind you, she abandoned him 45 years ago. Now, she's going to point out that she's a multimillionaire. And she's going to spend money like a multimillionaire. If I was coming back after 45 years, I wouldn't make them drive to frickin' Liverpool to see me. I would arrive in London, be right nearby, and then go to see them. Yes. That's so good. Hold on a second. Oh, that comes later on that's another power play. But Barbara, good point. That was the beginning of her power play. I love that. That is actually correct. That's a profile. That's exactly what I say. The first thing you want to find out about the person you're conning, your victim, is, are they willing to do things that they shouldn't do? And that's the first thing. Is they come and see me, and he jumps in the car and drives to her. 45 years that you didn't bother to find out what happened to me. And here's another thing that just drives me nuts, which I wanted them to ask in this thing. She says that he was taken away from her and that she didn't know where he was. But she becomes, mind you, she becomes a multimillionaire. And she is also the illegitimate daughter of the Sultan of Brunei, the previous Sultan of Brunei. That's her claim. She has money in two ways. She's a brilliant businesswoman, so she develops all these things. And she's also the illegitimate daughter of Sultan of Brunei. She's got massive amount of money for apparently decades. But she never once bothers to find out what happened to her son. Now, think about this. If she were totally poor and thrown out, never made a penny, maybe I could understand she couldn't find Hornigold, Graham Hornigold. Mind you, he was born in Germany on the base, but then moved to England. Okay. But she was in England, and she couldn't find him ever. Now, if she were poor, she might have an issue because she wouldn't have the money to figure out how to find him. Maybe not the intelligence. This woman is bright as heck, and she's a brilliant businesswoman. She could have found him early on. She could have been worried that my son is with his alcoholic father and God knows what's happening to him. I want to save my son. With all her money, I'm pretty sure she could hire a private investigator. She could find her son and she could file for custody. But it took her 45 years because she didn't give a shit about her son. The question they should have asked, she wasn't in the thing. They should have asked him is, did you ask your mother what took her 45 years to find you, with the amount of wealth she had? And she claims the reason she wanted to see him is because she's dying of cancer. Yes, she is. She's dying of cancer. Let's see where I have this in here. I tried so many pictures here, and I had some statements from the show because I thought they were just really interesting. Let me go to here. Let me see. Okay, she said Graham was forcibly taken from her. She had no control over that, but she had control over the next 45 years, and she became a wealthy woman. Any wealthy woman who cared about her child would want to make sure to save her child from that ex-alcoholic father of his, her ex, who is an alcoholic father. Would you leave your child with a man like that if you could do something? And she could do something, but she didn't. So here he is again. She says, I didn't know where he was. Okay. She had 6, and then she tells him, so after they go to Liverpool, she rents a separate room so they can sit and talk quietly away from his partner. And she tells him, I have 6 months to live. I have a brain tumor and bone marrow cancer, bone marrow cancer, whatever it is. I got a double whammy here. And yes, she had terminal cancer. Oh no, they're all hugging. And this was her driving factor in trying to find Graham. I love you very much, and I always will. Okay. She never loved him because it took her 45 years. She, first of all, abandoned him. Then she took her 45 years to find him again, even though she was rich as crap. And now in their last 6 months of her life, she wants to show how much she has always loved him, which apparently she never did. Now, again, in this documentary, why do they not ask him these questions? Why did you ask your mother where she was for 45 years? What is it that now she has to come in? She feels bad now? Ask him the proper questions. They never asked him any of those things. Now, I want to go back here because I want to mention this. I'm going to get into how she pulled this con off in a minute. But I want to point this out because it really bugs me. You're hoping that they're everything that you thought they were going to be. Now, this is like the Daily Mail article. I was hoping that this mother I was going to meet was everything. What was the comment here again? You're hoping that they're everything that you thought they were going to be. You thought the mother that abandoned you for 45 years was going to be something worthwhile? Right? Are you living in La La Land? And of course, what ended up was he got instead of just getting the poor mother who was basically surviving and wanting him to give her some money because she didn't get enough money in that month and was living on the dole. Okay, instead of that, he got the Brunei princess, and a woman who had massive quantities of money, just waiting to give it to him. He did get his wish. All right, then he says this, and he wanted to find out who she was and who I am. Okay. Now, this is going to be a little side thing just because it's my channel and I get to do my soapboxes. He wanted to find out who he was. Graham, you already knew who you were. You're a Brit who you're raised in England. You were born on a German base, but that didn't make you German. Your father raised you in England. It was a kind of crappy childhood, but you got yourself out of that. You became a well-known chef. You did something with your life. That, Graham, is who you are. Then you met your partner. You should have married. But anyway, you met your partner. She worked with you. You're creating a business. You had a decent life. And then you had a baby with her. You got to be a father. You had a family. But you wanted to find out who you were. Okay. So I have a problem with this. And the issue is this. And when you're a baby, that is not who you are. You're simply a baby. Now, you can have a lot of belief systems. As a baby, you could believe that. Let's look at some possibilities. That, for example, if you're Christian, you might believe that God made you like a snowflake, a different, everyone is different. And he gave you a particular personality and made you who you are. And you came into the world being that person as a baby, which pretty much would then have nothing to do with their mother or father. You could be a person who believes everything is biological and genetic, and therefore you're just simply a conglomeration of the genes you got from mother and father, and therefore you're exactly who they are put together. You could believe that. If you're maybe from India, you might believe in reincarnation. You might think that whatever happened in your last life and your last life and your last life, all the lives before, your personality has continued through with the adventures and things you've learned into the new life. And so therefore your personalities are built on all of the experiences you've had. I don't know what you're going to believe in, but when your bio mom vanished, you were a baby. And people put so much emphasis on babyhood as some kind of massive meaning in life, that wherever you were born as a baby means that's who you are, or whatever genetics you have, that's who you are. Now, I was born in New Jersey and lived there for 8 years, and then I moved to Virginia. And I have a kind of a soft spot for the town I grew up in, because actually I grew up there for 8 years. Now, if I had only been a baby there and at 3 months old, they took me to Virginia, should I believe that I belong in New Jersey, that I belong in that town? What the hell? I don't even know. I've never lived there. I could go back to that town and like the town. Oh, God dang, we should have stayed here. This town's nicer. That's true. You can like something you've never been around, but it doesn't mean it has anything to do with what you felt like when you were a baby, or that you connected as a baby. That's kind of stuff that just starts driving me nuts. That babyhood means so much. Where your genetic connections are. I believe it's where you grow up. Now, there's a couple channels I want to point out to you on the internet, which just make me, I really enjoy it, because people often think of nationality as your, how can I say this? Wherever you were born, whatever land you were born in, somehow that's who you are. Now, he was born in Germany. I'm pretty sure he's not a German. He was on the Air Force base. I'm sorry, I don't know if he was on a base. I don't know what he was on for. Maybe it was Army. I don't know. Anyway, he was in Germany, born on a base. Because it was a British base, does it make him British or does it make him German? I mean, do you go with the land or do you go with the... Anyway, so there's this concept that as a baby, this makes who you are. So here, this is some things I really love on the internet. This is a guy who is Chinese, and he says it, I'm Chinese, born and raised in China, a Nigerian kids. Well, here's where they failed right away. They're calling him Nigerian. He's not Nigerian. He says right there, I'm Chinese. He's not Nigerian. He's Chinese. Why is he Chinese? His parents were from Nigeria. They moved to China. They became Chinese residents, or I don't know what their whole citizenship thing is there. But they lived in China, and he was born in China, and he's a Chinese citizen. His parents are Nigerian Chinese, meaning they were born and lived and grew up in Nigeria, came to China. Therefore, they bring their culture with them and their nationality. And now they live in China, so they're Nigerian Chinese. He is not Nigerian Chinese. Guy is simply Chinese with some Nigerian-born parents. I have a lot of Indian American friends. Why do I say they're Indian American? Because they grew up in India. They came here for college. They studied. They became doctors and engineers and whatever. And then they became American citizens. So you call them Indian Americans. Their children were born in America, and guess what they are? They're Americans. Now, can you have a connection to your parents' country? Sure. Because maybe, depending on how much culture they put into the house, let's say a lot of my Indian friends do cook Indian food. They go to the mandir, which is the temple, the Hindu temple. They do a lot of celebrations that are Hindu, because my friends happen to be Hindu. But their kids grow up, they're Americans, but they do have a lot of understanding of their parents' culture. And sometimes some parents go back to India, for a number of times during those years they're growing up, so they get to meet their Indian relatives and get used to the Indian culture. Doesn't make them Indian. They're still Americans who have that little intersection into another culture. Just because they look Indian doesn't make them Indian. I want to show you another Indian. Here's an Indian. His name is Jamie Alter. His father was a famous actor in India. He was born in India, raised in India, speaks Hindi. And people are so silly. They go like, oh my God, you speak perfect Hindi. How do you do that? I was born here. Look, you speak English with an Indian accent. Because I'm Indian. He's Indian. Just because he's white doesn't make him not Indian. Is it unusual in India? Yes, but it doesn't make him not Indian. Here's another. This is one of my other favorite people. Where is he? Oh, this guy cracks me up. He calls himself the White Jamaican. He's very, very funny. I'll link below. He speaks a 100% Jamaican patois, and sometimes he plays people, and he's so funny. He's just hysterical. But he's Jamaican through and through. Born in Jamaica, raised in Jamaica. He's Jamaican. And most people think, oh my God, aren't Jamaicans black? Well, a good portion of them are. The majority of Jamaicans are black, but there are also people who have different looks, Asian, Caucasian. There's a whole bunch of different. There are Germans in Jamaica. They were, at one point, German German Jamaicans. So my kids and I we were traveling through Jamaica. We went up to this hilltop and went to the store to buy some crackers. And there was a very white guy behind the counter, and he spoke totally with, he's totally Jamaican, man. And my kids are like, "Why is the white guy?" And it was because they were brought over from Germany. They were indentured servants, and they got screwed, and they ended up living in Jamaica and just abandoned basically, and they became Jamaicans. And their kids grew up, and a lot of the children now are biracial because they mixed into the darker population, color wise. And so it's so silly, but this is a Jamaican. He's a Jamaican through and through, absolutely. And there's some sad situations like this girl. She actually was adopted. She was born in Sri Lanka, and she was adopted by Norwegians. She was a tiny baby when she went to Norway. She grew up in Norway. She's a Norwegian. She has no understanding of Sri Lanka. And the only thing connecting to Sri Lanka is that she looks like many people in Sri Lanka. And she went back to find her bio mom in Sri Lanka. My bio mom was not a wealthy lady and died very quickly after she found her. And it turned out that the bio dad was a piece of garbage, and her life in Sri Lanka would have been absolutely a nightmare. So she probably lucked out that she was adopted by Norwegians, and she grew up a Norwegian. So when she went back to find herself, as he's trying to say, I want to know who I am. No, who you are is exactly who you are now. It's like, you're not somebody else. Just because you were born as a baby, somebody else doesn't make you anything else than what you are now. Who you are now is how you grew up, what you know from how you grew up, what the culture was around you, and that is what you became. And when I look back at my genetic history, my father was born in Germany. He was a German Jew when he was born. My grandparents were German Jews, and they got out on the last ship leaving Germany before everybody got murdered, which included a lot of people in my ancestors. But for some reason, my grandfather wanted to be Catholic, and so I grew up. My grandfather died very early on, so I never met him. And I went to my grandmother's apartment in New York City, and we had German Christmases like you wouldn't believe. I mean, tall Christmas trees, real candles, marzipan. I mean, it was German Christmas. And I didn't know till I was 12 that we had any Jewish relatives. I'm like, why are we getting Jewish New Year's cards? I'm like, what the heck is this? He goes, oh, that's because my side of the family is Jewish. I'm like, what? Now, I can actually go to Israel, apparently. I can, because I have Jewish blood in 50%. But I have no relation to the Jewish culture at all. I wasn't raised Jewish. I didn't go to synagogue. I'm just not. It doesn't matter. Some people in my family were, and it's a very interesting history. And I've studied the history. It's fascinating. And so I love learning about the history of our family. But that doesn't make me Jewish. It doesn't make me a German Jew. It just makes me somebody who is what I am today because I was raised by my parents. My mother, who was a Protestant from New England. I have no connection to New England whatsoever. Hate the cold, don't want to live there, hate the food. I'm who I am. So I'm not somebody because of where I was born. And just because you feel this is this, so I want to bring out the next thing about this. So and I'll go to some of your comments. I know I've said this is my soapbox. I thought this was interesting. After they met, where is it? Oh, here we go. They had the same mannerisms. Oh, look at them. They're just so alike. Okay, that's what I'm pointing out. It's just so alike. Okay, I want to point this out. One of the things a con artist does is they mirror you. They find out what you're like. They suddenly have the same interests as you. They like the same food as you. They make the same expressions as you. Why? Because people are always happy around people who are like them. And especially if you're trying to say, hey, we've got this huge connection because we're mother and son, you want to play that to the hilt. Sorry. That's a con job. That's a con job. Just because you act in a certain way doesn't make you something at all. So that this would, the said I love this was showed me. Oh, look at they both do that with their faces. I've watched. Recently I've been watching. I watch telenovelas because I'm trying to learn Spanish, and I was watching El Señor de los Cielos, which is a really great telenovela from Mexico, and has a really great narco lead, the jefe, and he's hot. And anyway, he's got a brother who was an evil piece of crap like he is, but both psychopaths. But anyway, he does this thing recently, and I just was watching. He's going, I don't know why he's doing that. Just some mannerism he decided to add into his acting thing. And the other day, I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing? Well, it's because I'm watching this show. And you start picking up mannerisms from, whatever you're involved with. But con artists, they know how to do this in a way on purpose because they want you to feel like them. They want you to feel that connection. So she was very good at what she did. And he was falling for it because, oh my God, she's just like me. No, she's not. She's playing you for sure. All right, I'm going to check some of your comments here. Lisa S says, Han Human is a South Korean model who looks African, but is South Korean through and through, speaks Hangul, and was born in South Korea. Dad Nigerian, mom South Korean. You're who you are. Now over life, I just want to point this out. Over life, you can change who you are. I don't have any objection to that. An adoptive person could go back to where they were born and go, oh my God, I really love this place. But on the other hand, you could be like me. You could go to India and absolutely love wearing saris. Here I am. I fit in India so freaking well. And people are like, oh my God, you must have been Indian in your last life. I love Indian food. I love Indian clothing. I love Indian jewelry. I love that stuff. I may retire to India one day. There's nothing wrong with that. You can love another culture and then want to become part of that culture. But if I move to India one day, I got to do something useful. I've worked in a deaf school there. And if I go back and work in a deaf school and live in India for the remaining years of my life, at this point, Sonia might say, oh my, Pat Brown, she's a lovely American Indian lady. And she is so like us. If you want to scare yourself, go to FaceApp and you want to make yourself older. So now I know what I'm going to look like I hope that's 90 and not 10 years from now. I hope this one I'm 90. but I'm already prepared. But you can become somebody else. But it's not necessarily because of biology. So the concept that whatever you were born as a baby makes you who you are, this is ridiculous in my opinion, because it's where you grow up. The rest of it's just genetics and what your eyes look like and your skin looks like and whatever. It doesn't make you who you are. Your life makes you who you are. And the mistake he started making was he started believing that because he had found his mother, that there was some innate connection. Now that was just wishful thinking. But the wishful thinking question in this particular case very quickly became, was it wishful thinking that he wanted to have a mother, or he wanted to have the money he thought his mother had? So that's going to become the next issue here. That's exactly what I look like now. Woo! Oh, no, it's not now for me yet, although I'm using a filter. I'm closer to that than I want to be. I've accepted it. It was interesting to see what I would look like. I'm like, well, I guess that's as long as I'm having a good time. I have to admire her. She was in her 80s and she was having a heck of a great time. She was drinking champagne and eating the best foods and staying in the finest hotels. I got to credit her on that one. She knew how to live life. If you're going to be a con artist, at least do it well. this is a good point. This heightened instinct enables them to read people and manipulate situations for personal gain, driven by a hyper-reactive reward system rather than empathy or conscience. That is a well stated. Um, one of the things con artists learned, she was in her 80s. She'd been practicing this for half a century. She probably got better and better and better as she went on. But what you know about victims is that first you test them to see whether they're going to be good victims. And when you find that they will be, then you know you can play them, and you look for their weaknesses, and you look for what it is they want. What needy thing do they have going for them? Because if they're not needy, he would have right up front, he would have said, "Where the hell have you been for 45 years?" Which is why I wanted a documentary to say, "Where the hell have you been for 45 years?" Because 45 years ago, you left me with a horrible parent. I had a miserable childhood. And you're telling me now you were the illegitimate daughter of the Sultan of Brunei, and you didn't do a damn thing to save me? And now that you're supposedly dying, now you want to roll in and be my mommy? No, there's something wrong with this picture. But what were the two things she probably nailed him for? That he wanted to have a mother that never had, and then he wanted her money. And if she just believed he just wanted to be with her, she wouldn't have had to pretend about the money thing so much, right? But she did, because she wanted him to end up forking over money, because she was conning him out of his own money, which is where you start wondering, how stupid is this guy? And I'm going to get into that. But I want to talk about the mannerisms first and the neediness, how people get conned. So now I want to take you to my own experience, because you're going to see from my own experience exactly how she did it. And so that's why when I started watching the movie, I'm like, yeah, I know what she's about. When I first started into profiling, I started my, I can't even remember now. Was it 1995? I think, when I opened up my business, to say that I started into establishing myself. And the organization was called the Sexual Homicide Exchange. And the reason I started it that way was I wasn't trying to be a big profiler. I was trying to solve serial homicides by working with the victims' families, because I felt like nobody was really connecting things, and it was all pro bono. Everything was pro bono. So it was the beginning of the internet. So can you tell me when the internet actually started doing like what happened was I wanted to make a website, and it was the beginning of the internet. So they had these really cheap websites you could basically put on and put your name in and stuff like that. So I did that. I made this really crappy website, but it got me going. And I got contacted by a woman, and she said, "I see what you're doing is exactly what my issue is. I want to help victims, blah, blah, blah." You think it was 2003. That might be maybe about right. I can't quite remember. But anyway, she popped up. Now, what she told me, and this is what I want you to understand, because it's really important. The majority of what she told me, there was a lot of truth in it. So what happens is, if they tell you enough things that are true, you just don't necessarily understand the things that the other part you assume is true too. She told me she was an American, which she was. She was living in London, which she was. Sorry. She was married to a naval architect, which she was. She was homeschooling her 5-year-old, which theoretically she was. It wasn't not a brilliant thing, but yeah, okay. And she was working for a particular company. I asked her about her. She said she was getting her doctorate. She was just waiting for the paperwork in forensic psychology. And I asked her where she went to get her master's. And she said she went to John Jay College in New Jersey, which is a top criminology place. And I asked to see her transcripts. Meanwhile, I asked for the name of the company she worked for. So I wasn't a total dolt. I wasn't a total idiot. but I was new in the profession, so I wasn't really used to female psychopaths that much. But I did ask her for where do you work? I want to talk to these people. I called them. They said we love her, and they were a legit organization, and they'd hired her, and they loved her. She sent me the transcripts from John Jay College. She had great grade average. All the things. It looked like a total normal transcript. It had all her names on all the courses. No question there at all. So now this, she wanted to work for me for free as volunteer. I wasn't paying her for anything. And so I'm like, well, okay, the people who are working for say you are who you are. I've got John Jay College transcripts in front of me. She's smart as hell. IQ off the charts. She knew all the stuff that I had been studying, all the books I'd read. She'd read all those. As a forensic psychologist, she would have read those things, and she had done so. And she said, hey, you need, I do website work too. I can fix your website. That was awesome because my website sucked. So she came in, she fixed the website up, made it great. And then she worked with me voluntarily for quite a while. And it's like, okay, she seems legit. And mind you, I didn't have the money to hire some organization. People don't understand this. To hire somebody to go and do a deep dive into somebody's background, some PI thing, is not that easy. It's very expensive. And I didn't have that. And she was volunteering, and I already had her transcripts, and I had this people that said she was who she was. So she worked for me for a while. Then she said, I'm moving to Hawaii. My husband has a job there. Well, guess what? She moved to Hawaii. She lived in Hawaii. There was no question about that. At that point in time, I wanted to start writing. I was starting to write my first book, Killing for Sport. And I was like, okay, we were, she was fun to talk to, fun to work with. And I'm like, hey, if you're going to be part of this organization, I'm willing to share the book with you. I'll share half the profits. So I already got the contract. So I was like, told the publishers that I wanted her, to co-author with me. And they were like, cool with that. And so I flew out to Hawaii to just write. I had written a lot of the book, but we wrote the rest of the book together. And she when I want to talk about the mirroring thing, she could mirror my thoughts. So she knew what I would say. I always remember there's one time I went to the bathroom. When I came back, she finished a sentence, and I would have finished the sentence the exact same way. She was good at what she did. She's smart. So we were writing the book, and everything was going well. And while I was there, I don't know, there were some things that didn't seem right to me. First of all, she had said she had some severe back issue where she had to have some kind of implant thing. She had a whole website for that and everything. And she did have a website, but when I saw her, I didn't see the issue of the back issue so much. And I was like, eh. So anyway, I can't remember this. It's been so long ago, but I think she lived in 2 different places in Hawaii. I think I might have gone back a second time because she lived in an apartment when she first arrived. And then when I went back the second time, she had this gorgeous beach house on the beach in Waimanalo, Hawaii, which is wonderful. And her husband was making great money. And guess what she was? She was now principal of a charter school, a public charter school on Oahu. She'd been hired as a principal. So, she seems pretty legitimate. If you can get that job, didn't they do the background check? All right. So, but I'm with her there. And then she says to me, she's got a brain tumor. Like her, she suddenly has a brain tumor. And then she's going to these appointments. She's got this area of her head, which is like shaved off because I got to do the radiation and crap. And I'm like, I'm just looking at this going, I don't know why I'm not believing this crap. So anyway, her husband, one of those people I call adult, kind of like the Sherry Papini husband, Keith, before he wised up after he finally figured out he'd been adult. This guy, as long as he got fed, got sex, and she let him do what he wanted to do. They were into sailing boats and stuff. He was a happy camper. He never questioned anything. But I wasn't quite the adult at that point because I'm in her house when she went out to do her job, and I did I was a private investigator at one point. So I kind of investigated her house, and I came across her real name. I started doing phone calls, and I found out she'd never gone to college. I found out she lied about pretty much everything, and I won't get into all the details of that. But I'm like, whoa. So anyway, I flew home. I called her up and I said, I'll call her Sandra. Her name's not Sandra. I said, Sandra, I said, here's what I learned when I was at your house. And I laid out everything about who she really was, what her educational status was, all the stuff. And I said, here's what I need you to do. Within the next 24 hours, I need you to remove your name and everything about you from my website. And I need you to call the publisher and remove your name from my book. And I never want to hear from you again. And if you don't do that, I will take this public and to law enforcement. She said, okay. About 24 hours later, she was gone. Wow. And so I learned, this was really early on, this is like 25 years ago. I learned how a female psychopath can work. What was her con with me? She never took any money from it. I mean, theoretically, yes, maybe the book publishing, but you don't make that much money off our first book, so she wasn't going to get much out of it. She wanted the status of being in my organization to be somebody she was not. And I wasn't losing any money, and she actually was pretty helpful for a good portion of what she did. So I didn't really suffer that much, but I'm glad that book didn't come out with her. And, and I learned a lot. I was like, what the heck? So I learned a lot about female psychopaths early on. But what she did was make sure that I liked her, that she could talk my talk, that she could have the life that similar to what I lived. I noticed her expressions when I went to stay with her and actually met her when I was living in Hawaii in her house. I wasn't living there. I was staying there for like a month. I started seeing how these things were, I felt like I was being conned. And guess what? Well, she never did have, she didn't have a brain tumor either, by the way. She had apparently embezzled a whole bunch of money from the homeschooling people, and she needed to get the heck out of the school before they fired her, so she got a brain tumor. So that's how that worked. She's pretty much gone off the map and has vanished into the wilderness after that. Well, at least I can feel like I do something good. But that's how a con artist works. They look for something you need. I did need something at the time. I mean, I was trying to start an organization. I had no computer skills. I had no help. I was working alone. It was lonely. I wanted to work with somebody else who was excited and had knowledge and all that. And she fit the bill. So for him, he wanted a mother and a frick load of money. And she rolled in and she fit the bill. Now, there was a difference between him and me, and I'm going to get into that in a bit. Okay. I did not say anything to her husband. I did not. I was trying to get out of there and get her. I was trying to cut her from me. So no, I didn't. He's still with her as far as I know. Let's see. What was she going to do with the tumor angle? I think I probably just explained that. She was using that, I think, to get sympathy so she could get out of the job that she had. Apparently, they didn't vet her for that job as a principal, which is this. And I want to point out how this works, because this is how she did it. Once you get somebody on board that is credible, more credible than yourself, you're going to say, well, the more credible person, if they believe her, then I should believe her. When I called London and asked whether she worked for them, I'm assuming they did. I mean, I assumed they vetted her. They were an major organization. I was an independent person working out of my home. I'm like, you're a major organization. They said who she was. I did, by the way, eventually call John Jay College and find out she never went there. But I mean, I assumed that they knew. They looked at her. I assumed they did the background check. They didn't. And then when she went to Hawaii and got the job as a principal of an elementary school, wouldn't you not think that the public school system would check out that she was legitimate, that she had a degree, that she had a background? So when she told me that, and it turned out to be true, who am I to think, come on now, that school didn't even bother to check her out. So therefore, that gives her believability. That's what gave her believability. So what she did, which was very clever of her, and that's what I want to get into, is what she did was con one person after the other person after the other person. When she conned the first person and got money from them, then she used that money to establish herself. For example, she would stay at places that were like this, the Dorchester. I mean, we're not talking, Red Roof Inn and Motel 6. We're talking about fancy, fancy hotels. And therefore, somebody's staying in the best hotel. And when she walked into that hotel, they were like, "Oh, welcome, welcome." I don't even know if I mentioned her name. Did I ever mention her name? let me go back. I did a whole thing on the yogurt shop murders, and somebody was so pissed off because I didn't mention his name and like the name of the suspect for like 20 minutes. And I'm like, what? And then I realized that I had started the show and my video, and I had actually, in the first video I'd done, I said, and this is so-and-so, and this is what happened. And then the dogs next door started barking like crazy, and I had to kill the show. And I started it over, and I never mentioned his name again. And then I'm like, she's right about that. But anyway, her name was Dion, but she had a bunch of names. Let's see. I don't know if they mentioned all her names. Muhammad was one of them. Dion Muhammad. Dion. There's a whole bunch of names that she went under. And the one was the most popular was, let me find it, because I looked it up God knows how many times to find out more about her. Let's see, Dion. What the heck? It's not what I want. Not Dion Hornigold. Shoot. Shoot. No, I can't find it. I'll have to go to Wikipedia. Yeah, okay, I'll go to Wikipedia. Just so you know, because I got nailed on that. And let's see, Con Mum. All right, let's see. All right, Wikipedia. All right. Dion Marie Hannah was one of the names. She had like 3 different names. But they knew who she was. So she walked into the hotel and they saw money coming. They're like, welcome, welcome. And they'll take her to the restaurant. They put her in the best seat. And they knew who she was. Now, he comes along and his new mom that he's just found, who has never questioned about what the hell she's doing, and is planning to give him all her money because she's going to die within 6 months because she's got cancer. Although she eats like a pig and she drinks tons of champagne. It doesn't look sick at all. But anyway, he's not too bright. Anyway, so they go in there and everybody's fawning over her. Well, who would fawn over a person who has no money? So he's like, well, if these people are fawning over her, she must have money. And that's not unreasonable to think. And then and then of course she spent the money, by the way. And this is another clever trick that this kind of con artist used. She went out and she's spending like a lot of money buying expensive purses, fancy shoes. She bought him a car. Well, not exactly. So they go to Rolls Royce, yeah, and he ends up with what did he end up with? What was that car? Where is it? She bought a car for him and a car for his partner. And what was interesting about this is that vehicle ended up costing, where's the price on that? 74,000 pounds, 75,000 pounds for each one of the car. Each one of them was 150. Okay, very fancy vehicle, right? Now, what's interesting and where I'm like, how did you miss this? So anyway, she's spending a ton of money. This is the first thing. She goes in places and she's spending like $5,000 just easily over there. She's buying even though not all of her clothes are super fancy and stuff, this is like a $10,000 fur coat thing. She's buying caviar. She's spending massive money on champagne, like $400 a bottle. Now, you look at that and you're like, this woman's got money. This woman's got money. I mean, who spends that kind of money? Except a woman who has a tremendous amount of money. She says she's got over 20 million just her base money is 20 million. And she's going to die within 6 months and she's going to give all the money to him. And so he's like, and he's like, once he heard that, he's thinking, I'm going to be rich as crap for once in my life. I don't have to work that hard in my life anymore. I'm going to be so incredibly rich. This is worth anything. And sadly, apparently thinks it's worth losing his partner and his baby, because when she first started out with this stuff, and she's in, she made them come to visit her, but then at some point she says, "Oh, I'm really, really sick. She sends a picture that she's now absolutely dying. She's got blood in the toilet, but she used red dye, and he finally found that out. But she's dying, and she's got less time left. And he's like, "What do I do? This new mother I've just met, who's really rich, is going to give me a home, and my wife just had a baby. So what do I do?" So he brings her to the house, and it doesn't go well because Dion starts turning on it. His mummy starts turning on her because she's in the way of what she wants to do with her son, what she wants to get off. She's a lot smarter. She's the one who eventually figured out that she was a con. She started doing background checks, and she told him, she's a con. But meanwhile, she wanted her out of the way because she realized when you got a person that will stop what you're trying to do, you got to get away from her. So she started treating her like dirt. And then she said, we got to go to Switzerland. And when we get to Switzerland, we're going to sign all the papers and all that stuff. And you have to establish a bank account. She's very good at all the talk. So this idiot went to Switzerland with her. And after he goes to Switzerland with her, he's supposed to go for 4 days, but he's gone for at least 2 months just after the baby's born, which is why the wife sort of said, I'm kind of done with you because, really. But meanwhile, I want to point out the car thing. She's spending a lot of money. And one of the things cons do is do stuff that convinces you they are who they are. And in the beginning, you're not giving that money. You're not giving money. You're not giving away anything. So you're thinking this person's doing this all for me. They're helping me. They're helping me. And eventually you will get nailed. So this car, apparently she put the down payment on 2 cars. Now, I want to ask you people who are profiling in the chat room, what would you think if somebody says, I'm going to buy you a car, and they put the down payment on it and your name is on the vehicle? What's the problem here? That was a Land Rover. Thank you very much. I couldn't remember. You're saying what a simp. I use dolt, but okay, simp is a good word. Simp is internet slang, typically used as a derogatory term for someone, usually a man, who is perceived as overly submissive and eager to please someone they're attracted to. Yeah, dolt, simp. Yeah, it's all works good. Her name wasn't on it. Yes. Thank you very much, Bruce. Why only the down payment? Now think about this. The woman's got at least $20 million, and she only puts a down payment on the car. Ding, 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 ding. And that should be the red flag thing going, whoa, whoa, whoa. What? You're making me essentially responsible for the remaining payments if you don't come through. Of course, he says, well, mommy is going to come through. Mommy's a good mommy. Well, she's never been a good mommy. She deserted you for 45 years. She never looked for you. And now you think she doesn't put out she doesn't even buy the car outright. She's with all this money, she can't do that. Instead, she's going to hang you with a payment. Where's your brain at? This is really bad, really bad. I mean, it's like, so then this is now she's gotten to a point. Now, mind you, it was COVID. So she was kind of stuck where she was at. So she found him as the new sucker because she needed to get money. Now, while she was in Switzerland with him, she conned a bunch of other people, which are in the documentary, because you can see. And she conned them saying, I'm going to give your company so much money. And again, they fell for the same thing he fell for. They're like, she's got a lavish lifestyle. She's always on the phone to the banker and her lawyer. And they believed it. And so as a present in return, they gave her money. Like $50,000, $100,000, ludicrous stuff. And so she takes that money and then she impresses the next person with it. That's how she always played her game. It's like a Ponzi scheme. So the first person you con, you can use that money to make the next person think you're super wealthy, and then you con them. So that it keeps going on like that. And you got to keep the money coming. So when she found that he was there, your son was in England, he is now a well-known chef. She says, here's my next mark. So who was she always talking to? this is a very good question, TKM. She was always on the phone talking to her banker or lawyer. Was she? I see, again, I don't see anything in the documentary that asks who the hell is this banker and lawyer, by the way? Who are these people? Why haven't they found these people? Why doesn't he know who they are? Who are these people? So there's also this moment where he goes into the bank, I guess at night, and goes to some private room that only top people with tons of money could have done after hours. Who's doing this? And they won't talk about it. Like, did she pay somebody off and say, look, I got my son's coming. I want him to be comfortable. I'm going to give you $20,000 if you just take me up there tonight. I think that's what she did. And of course, the bank doesn't want to admit, or the person who was the banker may not want to admit that. I don't know what game she was playing with them to get them to cooperate in any way. And I don't know how often she was actually talking to them either. So I think a lot of that was either staged on her end or staged with a co-conspirator. But again, the documentary doesn't bother with it, and they don't bother asking him any questions either. What he does say is they never signed any papers, which is quite interesting. It is a Class C Ponzi scheme, but very well played. Very well played. Now, and I don't know, this is the question we would all like to know, but the documentary doesn't seem to care about the answer. And that bugs me, because to me, a documentary should be about finding the truth and presenting facts and helping you understand. But that's not what the documentary is really about. That's why I'm not fond of the documentary. It's fun to watch. I'm not going to deny that. I'm not going to say they didn't achieve their goal. But yeah, I think this is very true. I think, at least it says, we can also say that recipients of the cons are responsible as well. Exactly. Because you have a responsibility, especially when you have a partner. I hate that word. It's basically his wife and a new child. You were abandoned as a child, and you abandoned your wife and your son to go off on this ridiculous escapade because you thought I don't think it's just about your mother, because let's stop. Stop for a minute, guy. Step back and say to yourself, my mother, who supposedly is so happy that she's finally with her son in her last days, and she's so happy she's now the mother-in-law to my partner, and she's so happy she's a new grandmother, doesn't do one decent thing to make sure that you're a good father to those and a good husband. She could say, and you could say, more you could say, first of all, there's people point out it's not that far. Switzerland is not that far away as far as a flight goes. It's pretty close as an hour flight, hour and a half flight. He could have gone with her for those 4 days and come right back and said, look, I got to be with my wife for the next month, whatever. I'll come back when you need me to sign that. Or why don't you come back and spend more time with us? If she was a problem in the house, this is a multimillionaire. All you do is find her house right down the street. You hire nurses for her. You hire help for her. And she can just live her glorious life. Well, she did come back to England, by the way, and stay in this apartment that was smashing. Well, she could look at the Thames and all that. But it wasn't about the wife and the child at all. So she's still she still loves the lavish life, but she would never do anything to help her son and be sure that he's a decent man to his wife and grandchild and he, a partner. And he essentially dumped his partner and child for this fake mom, though she might be biological, and this hope for the big money. And on top of that, he's a crook, in my opinion, because she started asking him for money. And this is where the weird part gets. This is where the con starts. She starts asking him for money. And let's see where I have it here. Okay, I'm going to run through a few things here. Okay, hold on. That's when they were together. And okay, she said, I would need to have a Swiss bank account open. So he goes there. We're talking like hundreds of millions, not 20 million, but hundreds of millions. During that time, she was talking to the Swiss banker, and now you see him. He's enjoying the high life in Switzerland. He's in Switzerland. He's got, just want to point out, he's a chef. He likes good food. And a lot of times when you're a chef, you go to different restaurants, you get comped by the other chefs, you get to have really great stuff. As I have a nephew who actually owns restaurants, and he gets comped a lot. But he's down in Switzerland. He's eating the best food, staying at the best places, having the best champagne, best wine, everything. He's having a hell of a good time. Meanwhile, his partner is home trying to take care of the baby by herself. And she's got no help. She's going to the neighbors saying, hey, can you help me? Can you drop by the store today and pick up some stuff? All right. Then this is what happened. After she's partying, spent all the money she got from somebody else. She said she needed money because she couldn't get the money out of her bank. What? So suddenly she has no available cash because she's been using a lot of cash because it's other people's cash. But suddenly she's gone. And the claim is because it's COVID, she couldn't get money from the bank. There was some issues going on with credit cards and everything. Now, I'm pretty sure that the rest of you people who live in Switzerland, the rest of you people who live in England and in the US or wherever you live, I made it through. My money was not locked down in the bank. It was available. You're telling me a woman who's got millions and millions and millions of dollars, first of all, only has one bank. I have 3 banks. I don't know how to kind of money, but no. I'm pretty sure that if you're that rich and you got businesses and Philippines, Indonesia, Singapore, wherever you got all these freaking businesses, all these plantations, palm oil, and all this kind of stuff. You got all these businesses. You don't have more than one bank because anybody is smart about business and smart about money knows you don't put all the money in one bank. Yes, you might have a lot of money in a Swiss bank account, but you also have money in Panama or wherever else you're going to put your money so that you have options. No matter what happens and where you got to run to when they find out you're a crook, you got another place to go where you can get your cash. You're telling me you can't get your credit cards don't work? You're a multi-millionaire and you don't have any credit cards that function? Dude, you're an idiot. And she's like, I just can't access any of my money. Can you lend me some? The guy lends her money. He lends her all in all, I think he lent her $100,000 in cash money. He started paying for her hotels, the food. She's ordering all the food, but he's giving her the credit card. No, he could say, look, Mom, if you don't have enough money right now to pay for any of this because you can't access anything, I can't take this from my account because I share that with my partner, which he didn't tell her. He was taking money out of their joint account, right? You could say, let's not have the $400 bottle of champagne, the $200 bottle of wine. We could go a little lower on that. We could just do everything cheaper. But he keeps paying, and she keeps enjoying the high life. Till he's $100,000 down. Sorry. $100,000 down. Plus, he's got these 2 vehicles, which he can't afford. So he loses out on about $300,000 and takes money from the joint account that he has with his partner. At which point his partner's like, you're stealing money from me. You've abandoned me with our new baby to pursue what this crooked woman is pursuing. She was done with him. And it's interesting. Yeah, there's 2 groups of people. I've seen them on Reddit and I've seen them on Instagram. On his Instagram account, everybody's like, "Oh, you poor dear, you're just wonderful," and that woman's terrible. Your partner was terrible. She didn't support you. And the people over at Reddit are going, "This guy, yeah, you dumped him. You dumped him, and he should have dumped him because he cared more about the money and this illusion he had than his own partner / wife and his own son. And he was abandoned as a child, and he abandoned his own son. So they were questioning, what kind of person is he? And I'm not going to go and do a big diagnosis of him, but I'm going to say, I just don't feel that sorry for him. I'm going to go to some of your comments now. Yeah, I totally understand the wife. Yeah, I think she learned what he was really about. And it's very sad because, yeah, but I mean, to have what happened to her, he chose chose a woman he had no clue what kind of woman she really was. A woman who abandoned him for 45 years, never even questioned the abandonment issue because he saw the money. I believe the money thing was way more important than him reconnecting with his mother. And I think there's a whole bunch of pictures. Let's see if I have some of them here. Just so many pictures of him with this woman, and he's doing this kind of thing. Oh, huggy, huggy. Oh, I love you, I love you. All right. He was playing a part. What he knew was in order to get that money, he had to be the son who was happy his mother returned. And he had to be thrilled about everything she was doing for him. And so he was excited that she gave him the vehicle because she wanted to give him a present for screwing him over for 45 years. So this will make up for it. And she's treating him wonderfully, and they're all having a gay old time. And she's just fun, fun, fun. And she probably was quite fun in many ways. She smiled a lot. She called people, call me grandma. She was always trying to make a connection. Call me grandma. I'll call you grandson. I'll call you my son. I'll call you my daughter. Anything to make a connection, more than just we're two different people. And that's a good con job, because you want that person to say, oh my God, she really likes me. She really loves me. No, she's just using you. You're stupid enough to fall for this. But he was willing to fall for it because he saw that he would be wealthier than most people on the planet if he got the deal. How did he know there weren't other children around? She was married 2 other times. I still don't know the answer to that either. And the documentary didn't waste their time with it. Does he have brothers and sisters out there somewhere in the world? Why does she leave the money to them? Why is it suddenly she's going to leave all this money to him? So she played him because it was easy to be played. And when you're that easy to be played and you're willing to, I wouldn't mind so much if he didn't have a partner and a son. If he was just on his own and he wanted to throw caution to the wind, it wouldn't have bothered me as much. But he threw away his partner. He threw away his child. He threw away his honesty when he stole money out of their account. Now, she can't do anything about it because it was a joint account, but he didn't tell her what he was doing because he knew it was wrong. And interesting enough, they say they can't even go after what money he gave to his mother because she's his mother. I think that's kind of like just desserts, in my opinion. Now, she is being, since the documentary came out, she is being charged in, I think it's Singapore, because she defrauded people by misrepresenting herself. And I think they're coming after her for that. But she's 85 years old now. So she probably like, first of all, I got enough of their money still to afford a really good lawyer. So I'm pretty sure I'm not going to prison anytime soon. And if I am going to go to prison, I'm already 85 years old. So I've had a hell of a fine time. Her game was good. I'll say that. Do you think she used alcohol to influence him? Well, it does help if you're a little happier when she's, people drinking. The party's easier. Everything, your emotions are. I'm sure she did use a lot of alcohol. I think you're correct about that. And she also used good alcohol, which people don't understand who don't like good stuff. They're like, oh, anything is fine. But when he has fine taste. So just the joy of eating the best food, drinking the best wine, and then probably getting pretty darn tipsy, then that does lower his resistance. That's for sure. But he wasn't drinking 24 hours a day. So there should be some moments where he wakes up in the morning going, what the hell? But following the documentary's release, victims were inspired to report her. I'll give them up. I like the documentary for this, but I don't think it's going to have any influence. Let's go see whether she ever even goes to prison. I don't think she will. Leading to his April 7th, 2020, 25 charges, which could carry a potential sentence of up to 20 years in prison and a fine. Do you know, I've just seen some things recently here where all the person had to do is pay the fine. After they committed a horrible crime, they only have to pay a fine, don't even go to prison. I'm going to say they'll probably let her off on a fine. No, she's 85 years old, and she didn't mean what she did, and she'll pay a fine, if that, because she's an elderly lady. um, TKM says, I'm sorry, I really felt sorry for him, but your analysis has me thinking what an idiot he was. I'm suspicious of everyone already. But if my mom popped up after 45 years, it would take me many years to trust. And it should. And one of the things I always tell people is you got to be careful of trusting. If I say to you, trust me, hey, I'm criminal profiler Pat Brown. You should trust me. No, you shouldn't. You do not know a damn thing about me. You might enjoy my channel. You could go on the internet and some people will say I'm great and some people will say I'm a complete fraud. I'm an idiot. You're going to get all kinds of opinions. But just because I tell you should trust me doesn't mean you should trust me. You do not know me. You do not know me. I mean, few people do. My kids trust me. I believe they do truly trust me, because they have been with me all my life and they've known I don't lie. I'm fair. I'm open. I follow through on what I said. At least I'm telling you that. But you don't have to trust I'm telling you the truth. I could be lying about my kids. But I believe my kids trust me. I used to tell people, and they say, why don't you leave your children with us to babysit? I said, look, I trust my mother because my mother and father, they proved to be very trustworthy people throughout my life as far as safety goes. I would leave my children with them because I would believe they were safe. My sisters also, I would trust them because I knew they were very particular about safety. So I would leave my kids with them. There are some other people, relatives, there's no way I'm going to leave my kids with them because I don't see that they've proven to me that they're that safe. So you should not just trust people because I say you should. You should trust people because they have a track record. That's how you gain trust, a track record. So a guy says, Ted Bundy, when a woman's struggling with her groceries, oh, let me help you carry those. She goes, oh, and that's okay. He goes, oh, come on, trust me. I'm just going to help you get them up. Why are you trusting a guy in a parking lot? Do you know this guy? No. So you shouldn't trust him. And so the more it is going to affect you and affect people around you is the less you should trust somebody. Take a chance, in other words. So there's a difference between taking a chance and trusting somebody, by the way. When you take a chance, you recognize that you don't necessarily trust them. And you're taking the chance for some reason. Maybe because you think you're really going to maybe hit it big, or because it will be helpful to you, whatever. You're saying, maybe not too harmful to you, so you're willing to take a chance. And at the time I had this particular woman come in and join me and help me out. Did I trust her? Not entirely, but because I didn't know enough. I couldn't prove everything about her, but I tried to do the best I could, and I felt she wouldn't be that harmful to me. That's why I said, well, I'll take the chance. But when you have somebody, in this case, where everything about her history you don't know, and she abandoned you for 45 years, that should raise red flags right there. But I think I absolutely believe it was the money, not the mummy. The money, not the mummy. It looks like, as Liz says, it looks like she mirrored Munchausen's in her con. I don't know if that's brilliance in her con or a way to maintain control. Well, I don't know that it's not. Yeah, the Munchausen part was the fake illness, and that's what my person who was helping me out had: the fake illness, the back problem, and then the brain tumor. The Munchausen's. Good point, though. There's a difference between Munchausen for sympathy and Munchausen for just control. I mean, when you're coming up with the fake illnesses, she wasn't looking. I don't know that she was looking for sympathy. She was looking to control him because if she said she was dying, then he would get the money really soon. And she pushed the time frame very short so that he would say to himself, well, I only have to give this much time and I will get all the money. Now, she said, I have some kind of, She had high blood pressure, whatever. She might have died for 5 freaking years. Maybe he wouldn't be so cooperative. My friend, friend, um, person who neither one of her issues had anything to do with me, but I think she developed a brain tumor in order to get out of the school issue. She was getting in trouble with the embezzlement thing from the homeschooling group, and that they probably were about to find out that she really had no background. So she got a brain tumor so she could get out of there. So sometimes it's not so much Munchausen syndrome in the sense that they're using that illness to achieve a specific goal, where Munchausen's is more for the attention you're going to get. You control people with the attention, but it's more of the attention. So it's a little bit different than that. So that's a good question, though. Please give me the money. I'll die in 40 years. Yeah, that isn't so much, who wants to wait that long? Well, there's a good, Clarissa says, I think I'm a bit jaded from past experiences because I don't really trust or believe anyone. And that's fine. You should demand that people earn your trust. And you should tell your children and grandchildren, don't trust anybody till they earn it. I mean, why would you? Trust is something that absolutely is earned. To think that you should just automatically trust a complete stranger is ludicrous. Or if a person has not proven to be trustworthy in the past, you should trust them today. No, that's the whole point about trust. Trust is, I'm going to look up I want to look up the actual meaning of trust now. What does it actually say? Trust, meaning. This is interesting, a firm belief in the reliability, truth, ability, or strength of someone or something. A firm belief. Well, a firm belief isn't, you can't have trust in somebody you just met in the parking lot. How can you have a firm belief that they're reliable or they're truthful or they're not going to kill you? I mean, yeah. So I think that's perfectly fine. Barbara says, oh, Pat, I do trust you. I sense what people are like. I'll be emailing you later for some money. That's very sweet, but still, you have no reason to trust me because you just don't know me personally enough. You could trust my analysis to be credible for the most part, and not that I can't make a mistake, but that's I do good analyses. You could trust that I educate. What else could you trust me? I mean, you don't know me. You don't. And yeah, I mean, you don't know me. Oh my goodness. Could this whole thing be oh no. Oh, you mean on whose part? She was involved in conning people for half a century. That's a lot of conning. You know what I mean? That's a lot of conning. She was a busy little bee. She lived a half a century on conning people over and over. And just a constant Ponzi scheme. She lived a hell of a good life. That's all I'm going to say. I mean, all the great food she ate and the places she stayed and the travel she did. Oh, man. I mean, she lived a great life being a crook. For him, was it a publicity stunt? Well, no, I mean, he was conned. I do think that he was probably willing to do the show. Here's another thing that you never find out about documentaries is, are they paying or are they not paying? For the most part, documentaries will always say, we don't have a budget to pay anybody in it. I work for very few documentaries. I just did a documentary this last week, because they're one of the few documentary companies, production companies, that pays me before I set foot. Because guess why? I won't work for a production company anymore, in TV production companies. First of all, unless I get paid, because I refuse to work for free. You want my expertise, you want my time, and you're making money, but you won't pay me for my time and expertise. That's just, no. I don't need your publicity. And they'll sometimes say, oh, well, we'll fly you out to California and give you a hotel room. I'm like, thanks, coach. Oh, it's exciting. 2 days of being in the airport and riding coach. And then I got to stay in a hotel. I can't wait. Sounds exciting. No, it doesn't. So, there's very few documentary companies that will hire me because I require that they pay. And after I got had issues a number of times with getting paid after we signed the contract, but I couldn't get a lawyer to fight them. They just ripped me off. I now require all the money to be paid up front, 100%. I don't even go for 50%. I tried that. I went to 100%. And I will give Ireland a thumbs up because this company is from Ireland. I've worked with them before. And they wired me the money. And I showed up. And they trust me in the sense that I have honored when they've given me the money up front. I have always honored showing up and doing a good job for them. And so that's why they're willing to do it twice or three times. I think this is our third time, I think. And they're like, okay, we're good. And because I honored my commitment to them without a contract, zero contract. They sent the money to me ahead of time, and then I show up. But I don't trust most of these production companies because they ripped me off. They're just not trustworthy, and most of the TV networks aren't trustworthy, and that's why I won't work for them. So, do they pay? Well, most people, they won't pay at all. They say, we don't have any money to pay, and we'll put you up in a hotel. And then they say they don't have any money to pay. But if they really, really want somebody, and the only way they can get that person is to give them a big payday, they will do it. They will lie that they did it, but they will do it. So when you see something like the Anthony family, I think it showed up on, like, what was it? Dr. Phil was a scumbag. That's just my opinion. Anyway, I will never work for him again. They didn't talk about how much money they paid the Anthonys, but I think it was a pretty large amount. So in other words, they won't pay somebody like me. They'll want me to work for free, but they might pay the person they really absolutely have to have. They can replace me with another criminologist, another criminal profile, somebody else who wants television publicity. But I don't know if they paid him. Maybe they paid him enough so he could pay off debts. We may never know. So there's a lot of conning going on in the TV world as well. He has some abilities, but he's got no ethics. That's where my issue comes with him. What? As for half up, As for half up front, charge double. That way, they try to. Well, whatever you ask for is probably what you're going to get. This is the point. But I thought in the beginning, maybe if I asked for half of it and then half after, we could come to an equal thing. And then I didn't get the second half. So yeah, now I just go for a whole thing up front, or just I'm not desperate. And let me point that out. I'm not desperate. Now, when you're early in your career and you have never done TV before and you're so excited you're going to get a chance to be on TV, you'll work for nothing. You'll work for nothing. But after a while, you're like, hey, this is not okay. I don't want to keep working for nothing. I'm not that desperate. Well, I've been around a long time. And I'm like, you don't want to pay me. Well, guess what? I have a YouTube channel. I can at least make an income off a YouTube channel. I got at least some pay for my work. And I got nice people here. Why would I want to work for you for free? And then you get all the money and you're out at that restaurant enjoying your champagne. No. So I'm not desperate. I don't need the publicity anymore. I just don't. I don't need the publicity. So you got to offer me something I think that is reasonable for my work and my time. But then somebody should just dump me and find somebody who is desperate. So yeah. So that's the way it works. Don't trust people just because they say they should be trusted. How could she get away with it for so long and Anna Delvey got caught quicker? Anna Delvey wasn't as smart. That's all it comes down to. And I can't remember all the things that Anna Delvey did. Now, mind you, she's coming off pretty good right now. She's still making money. She hasn't quite lost any. Totally lost. She hasn't totally lost. But I think one of the things she did was she moved between countries very quickly. And she did go to prison. She went to prison for one of the. She did screw up. She learned over time. Now, mind you, Anna Delvey's still very young. She's in her 80s. So Anna Delvey might get smarter. Did he use it to bolster his status? Maybe he just wanted to be more recognized. Maybe he might have gotten to the point where is in deep debt, and I don't know. I mean, he's a good chef. Apparently, he's a good chef, a good pastry chef. But how, you're in a world of a lot of people who are excellent at what they do. And I don't know that he felt he was beating people out at what they did, so that maybe, he wasn't as high up as he would like to be. And maybe he just got his point. His midlife crisis. He lost his wife and child, essentially. Then went to New Zealand and said, F you. And he's trying to establish a supposed relationship with his son. I'm not saying he's not trying it. I don't know. And this company is just folded. So I don't know what he's trying to do to survive and trying to make it, to try to get ahead. Now, mind you, also, he's hit middle age. And that comes with a whole new set of problems. And then he'll get to old age and I'll come up with another whole set of problems where you have trouble getting work and all this kind of stuff. All kinds of things happen. If you haven't made it by a certain point, you may never. Maybe he thought, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get a bunch of money. I'd like to know if they paid him. We're never going to probably find that out because they'll be mum and he'll be mum. So we may never know, but I don't know how much money he got. But maybe also did think that this would get him sympathy, which for many people on this Instagram, they are sympathetic. And I say Reddit wasn't treating him nice, but then he thought, okay, I'll get, maybe the publicity will help me, even if it's notoriety, even if it's I'm becoming infamous for being an idiot, for falling for this thing. But enough people feel sorry for me. Maybe I'll get a better job. Maybe I'll get better publicity. Maybe I'll whatever. He might have just hoped that this would, just lift him to another level. I don't know. Not quite sure. Oh, that's very nice of you, CJ. I try. But again, I always just say, until you're actually spend a lot of time with that person or work with that person or whatever, you just don't know. So I always recommend caution for that reason. I mean, it's just people can come across really, really nicely. And you think they have ethics, but they may not. I do, but but still, well, all he did, you said all he did was damage his reputation and destroy his family unit. I look at it that way, but I have been surprised how many people can destroy their reputation and destroy their lives and come out smelling like roses. Because we are a very fickle bunch of people in the world. We love entertainment, not we. I don't mean me, but generally speaking, the population love entertainment, and media loves people who they can exploit, who don't mind being exploited for the same reason he didn't mind being exploited for her. And so he may come out ahead. Believe you me, he may absolutely come out ahead on this. He may have made a stupid mistake, been very selfish and narcissistic, lost his partner and distanced himself from his child. But maybe he's made a bunch of money from this and he'll get a bunch of publicity. Maybe he'll come out doing great. The good guy doesn't always win, and the bad guy doesn't always lose. Just the way it is. So that's interesting. Wouldn't be surprised if he felt it was worth it. Possibly. Now, I don't entirely know all that about him. It's possible that the documentary misrepresented him and edited him to the point where he came across the way he did, because that's why I don't do. I'm very careful about what documentaries I do these days too. Even if they pay me, I have to make sure that the documentary is going to present me as an intelligent criminal profiler, as opposed to setting me up for somebody else to be a punching bag for, you know what I mean? It's like the background, the criminal profiler said this, and I go, ugh. And then they bring out the main guy, and he's like, she's an idiot, she's wrong, So I'm very cautious about that. I make sure that whatever I'm doing, it's going to be taped. I know it's not going to be edited to the point where I look moronic, or even slanderous. I've had I've had companies slander me, production companies, especially the Madeline Can stuff, the Australian company that slandered me and edited me to the point where I tried to sue them for slander, and it wasn't possible because they were in Australia and there's a whole weird law thing. I couldn't even do it. But I'm very cautious these days. There's one reason I like YouTube, because guess who controls what I say here? Me. And guess who edits? Well, I never edit. You get what you get, because I hate editing. So what I say is what I say. And therefore, at least I feel like if I screw up, I screw up. And if you don't like what I say, you don't like what I say. But when I do something in goodwill with somebody else in a production company, and I'm sitting there and I'm answering all your questions, and then I watch the documentary and it's like nothing of what I said, and I'm being tarred and feathered in it, that because they have no ethics. So this is my safest place here, and so only on rare occasions do I do anything outside of YouTube anymore. So lying by editing happens all the time. Yeah. So, but anyway, that's it. I just wanted you to understand how she was successful, because she had a good mark. She could zero in very quickly on what his neediness was, which was to find out who he was, and also to get her money. And so she played him really, really well. And she also got rid of the people around him. She distanced him from all the people around him that would interfere, which would be his partner and his friends. She tried to get money off the friends, and then she said, "Oh, he's stealing money from me." She's telling the friends, "Oh, he's doing these things to me." So she was trying to kill his relationships with his friends, so that she had. And people said, "Well, that's not going to work forever." Well, that doesn't matter, because most con artists know they've got a limited time frame. They try to suck out as much money as they can, because they know eventually it's going to collapse. People are going to find out, question, all this stuff. By that time, they're gone and they're on to the next mark. So that's how they operate. So they look for your weaknesses, and then they mimic you, mirror you, so that you feel like, oh my God, they're just like me. They're just me. I can trust a person who's me. And so they use that technique. Then they basically love bomb you with all kinds of lovely things. They say, "Oh my God, you're so wonderful, blah, blah, blah. And I'm here to for you," whatever. And then they give you presents or whatever, compliments, presents, whatever it's going to be, so that you like, "Oh my God, she's doing all this stuff for me, so she must be a great person. I'm sure she loves me." And then that's when the kill comes in. That's when you move in and you can get away with the things you can get away with, because by that time they're suckered and you've already pigeonholed them, and you know who they are. You know that they're falling for this. And then you get as much money as you can, and then when it starts to blow up, now you're just in another country and you start all over again. And she has more. Oh, the other thing, she had not only him on the hook, but while she was in Switzerland, she had 2 other people she was getting money from. So when people go online on Tinder, I did the thing on the Tinder swindler. The guy who's doing the swindling isn't swindling one woman. It's not like it's just the 2 of us. No, it isn't. It's you, the other 10 people, and him. In his case, it was him and the other bunch of people and her. So he wasn't the only one being swindled. It was all the rest of the people too. So she's got money and stuff. She's looking to see who's falling for it. She might try this one, doesn't work, X. This one doesn't work, X. This one did work. Okay, check. This one doesn't work, X, 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 check. Now she's got these 2 and she's got you. And she's playing this big game. And as long as she can get some money from here, she can then give the money here and there. And then you all think that she's really good. And so this is how it all works. So she's playing high-level chess, and you're sitting there playing checkers, whatever you're doing. You have no clue what's going on, And that's how swindlers work. There is never just you. They will go after everybody that they can. They keep contacting people and keep the game going, because they know that every one of these is going to eventually fail. So they have to have the next ones already going and have an escape route. So she was good at it. So they mirror how you think you act, because you usually think act likable. That's true. I mean, if you think you're wonderful, and then when the other person acts like you're like, "Oh my God, I am wonderful." That's true. Let's see. I just comment here. Oh, really? Oh, it's the Chiefs and the Ravens. Now what am I going to do? Okay, I'm a big Chiefs fan. I've been a Chiefs fan all my life, and of course I live near Baltimore, so I got to be a Ravens fan. How am I going to? Am I going to pick who should win this? Thank you for telling me. I think I'm going to go watch that. I'm going to get some food. I'm going to sit down and watch that. So, okay, that's a good ending. Thank you very much, Clarissa. I appreciate that. And thank you guys all for being here. And if you're new to the channel, please do like and subscribe. Join Patreon. And I will see you next week for patrons who are going to come to the Hangout. It'll be Thursday at 7 o'clock at night. So anybody who's here from the UK, oh, too bad. So anyway, I will see you guys soon. And yeah, let me go watch the game. Thank you for that. I appreciate it.